Welcome to the sun-drenched tropical paradise of Isle Delfino. We're so pleased to welcome you to our beautiful home.
Hey yo everybody, what is up? Finally back with another one. I hope you've all been well. So, Gen 9, huh? If you thought two Pokemon titles within an arm's length reach of each other would be good enough for a while, you would be gravely mistaken, because Game Freak is dropping the next generation of Pokemon by the end of this year. That's 3 major Pokemon titles all releasing within a year from one another. Pokemon makes Call of Duty and FIFA look modest by comparison. Masuda wasn't kidding when he said killing the Natdex would allow them to pump out Pokemon titles like no tomorrow.
We don't keep fans waiting too long for every new entry in the series.
People thought 1 Pokemon title per year was too much. How about 3? Pokemon games are being released at such a breakneck pace that it brings me to the title of this video. Is it possible to have too much Pokemon? To experience Pokemon fatigue where the consumer is overstimulated to the point of exhaustion, unable to bring themselves to shell out any more cash to fatten the already corpulent pockets of the gluttonous Pokemon overlords? I'm gonna go ahead and assume that's a negative, seeing as how the Pokemon consumer base is as insatiable for content as the Pokemon conglomerate is when it comes to money. A match truly made in heaven. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, eh? I like the return to the color naming scheme. Last time that was the case was all the way back during Gen 5 with Black and White. Those are technically shades, but I digress. As for what was shown for the Generation 9 games themselves, well, I'd believe you if you told me it was just a DLC expansion pass for Legends Arceus. Some stuff looks pretty good, like the Pokemon for instance. Seviper definitely did not look that good in BDSP. You can see it scales now. Some other stuff on the other hand, well, not so much. The trees are looking better, with a lot more variety this time around, but now it seems like the grass took a real hard hit, looking like blocky, textureless, green-filled rhombus. Rhombuses? Vegetation is hard. Scarlet and Violet are apparently actually open world, a first for the series. Remember when people who never played an open world game were referring to Sword and Shield as an open world game? Good times. Scarlet and Violet actually being open world has huge implications not only for the games, but the franchise as a whole. What does an open world Pokemon game even look like? Fans have long had ideas of what they would want it to be, but can that be translated into something that's playable and fun? Could they possibly introduce MMO aspects someday, with these open world titles being a foot in the door? Exciting prospects for sure. The closest we've ever gotten to an open world Pokemon game is Legends Arceus. While Legends granted a fair bit of freedom, progression was still relatively linear as the game only opened up in sections. To be truly open world is to, quite literally, open up the world like what you see in Skyrim or Breath of the Wild. What this means for a Pokemon game is that you should be able to, theoretically, challenge the 8th gym at the very start of the game, assuming gyms return. It should grant the player the ability to complete the game in their own way at their own pace, which is honestly a pretty exciting thing for a Pokemon game considering how rigid and railroady they usually are. Game Freak is especially notorious for boxing players in at every turn with contrived progression blocks. So much so that some of these roadblocks are self-deprecating, poking fun at the absurdity of it all. I'm very much looking forward to seeing if Game Freak is capable of letting go of the wheel for once, and granting the player ultimate agency, which is the bedrock of an open world styled game. I wonder how progression would work in an open world Pokemon game. Traditional Pokemon progression has the player unlock traversal capabilities as the adventure progresses, but this approach is antithetical to an open world game due to its linear approach. Instead of having the player unlock abilities in a set pattern, they could just place them at key areas in the world for the player to unlock in any order they see fit. This would incentivize exploration, compelling the player to look for the next piece of the puzzle in order to press onward with the main campaign, or to visit certain areas temporarily off limits until the ability to continue is discovered, be it a certain Pokemon or a certain move. This will also have a major impact on the narrative of the story. The more grand and focused the narrative, the more restrictive the game has to be to satisfy that narrative. That's one reason Breath of the Wild is so open-ended, with the main objective literally being to destroy Ganon.
Destroy Ganon. The next objective.
The bulk of the storytelling in that game is after the fact, relegated to flashbacks that have nothing to do with what the player is currently doing. This grants the player ultimate freedom to do as they please, to essentially write their own story. Pokemon can get away with doing something very similar. Instead of being tasked with destroying Ganon, you would go on a quest to conquer the Elite Four, the tried and true convention present in every single Game Freak Pokemon game ever. aside from Legends. Speaking of Legends, the official Pokemon website confirmed that Scarlet and Violet are returning to the traditional approach of catching Pokemon, requiring the initiation of a battle. I know I haven't finished my Legends review yet, but spoilers, I love the catching gameplay loop in that game. It is by far the most satisfying and enjoyable way to catch Pokemon in any Pokemon game ever. And I gotta say, it's disappointing and a straight up downgrade to regress to the antiquated, clunky system of old. It's understandable though, seeing as how Legends' catching system is more tailored towards an action-oriented approach, whereas the traditional Pokemon is more role-playing with a lack of substantial action outside of battles. Hopefully the battles themselves are initiated seamlessly as what was seen in Legends for a more streamlined and cohesive experience. The region draws inspiration from Spain, a pretty exciting area of the world, at least from what I've heard. I personally don't know much about Spain, or most other countries for that matter. Geography is definitely one of my weak spots for sure, but the buildings look really cool. Like the one based on the Sagrada Familia. I can't believe this place actually exists. It looks like something straight out of a fantasy novel. I would love to visit it someday. For now though, its Pokemon equivalent shall do. I'm assuming it's a gym building like what was shown off for Sword and Shield with the impressive Hammerlock building, although that sadly turned out to be a single small hallway with a tiny basement. Or maybe it's the Elite Four building. Looks awesome either way. I'm not a huge fan of the human characters in Scarlet and Violet. Usually Game Freak is pretty great when it comes to the human characters, even more so than the Pokemon themselves at times, ironically enough. They look far more uncanny and plastic and are very reminiscent of the character models seen in New Pokemon Snap, which I was also not much of a fan of. I think it's maybe the eyes? They're more circular instead of oval. Something is definitely off. The designs themselves are also rather drab and uninspired, going with a basic school uniform. I wonder if the Pokemon School will be more prominent in Scarlet and Violet as a result, instead of a forgettable building you visit once for a minute or two. The only new Gen 9 Pokemon revealed, their starters, are actually really solid all around. Fuecoco, the Fire Croc Pokemon, is the undisputed best of the three. I mean, it's a fire crocodile. You literally can't go wrong with such a simple yet effective concept. If the final evolution is anything like Crocodile, another one of my favorite Pokemon, then we're in store for one of the best fire starters ever. People have speculated that Fuecoco could be loosely based on an apple, which may hint towards the elusive fire-grass type combination, a pairing I've wanted for the longest time and what I thought for sure we would have gotten back in Sun and Moon, given the tropical landscape, but nah, it never came. Then Gen 8 came and went and still, no fire-grass type in sight. The first and only grass-water type was introduced way back in Gen 3. Then we got the cool fire-water type in Gen 6. If the multiple of 3 pattern is anything to go by, it's most likely we will finally complete the trio with Gen 9. A potential Fuecoco final evolution was leaked. Take it with a grain of salt of course, but if real, I honestly wouldn't mind. I really like the expandable wings, kind of reminds me of Palkia. Not a huge fan of the Pompadour though, it's too human? Feels out of place. As for the typing, I could see it being a Fire Fairy type, another unique type pairing that doesn't exist yet. The tail kind of looks like a pepper and reminds me of Scoville, a fire grass type Fakemon from Pokemon Xenoverse. So if the leak is real, then the fire grass type combo may still be a possibility. Sprigatito, the grass cat Pokemon, is, well, a cat. I love cats, so it's solid in my book. Hopefully it ends up faring better than Litten did. Quaxley is basically Donald Duck, so it's also awesome. I like them all. I can't remember the last time when all 3 starters were this good. Maybe Gen 4? I can't help but feel the Gen 9 games will be especially rushed. Granted, that's nothing new for a Pokemon title, but even for the other rushed Pokemon titles, there was at least some breathing room between them to allow sufficient development time. Game Freak, as we all know, is a small indie company, so to pump out 3 massive entries in such a small amount of time is unprecedented. To be fair, it was technically ILCA who developed the Gen 4 remakes, with Masuda assisting in butchering the titles as much as possible on the side, but Game Freak did develop Legends that dropped earlier this year. Open world games are notoriously difficult to develop due to the massive scale associated with such a game, as well as the effort and resources required to bring such a world to life. I have no clue how it's possible for Game Freak to outsource the long-anticipated Gen 4 remakes, produce Legends, one of the series' most ambitious titles to date, and drop an entirely new generation and the very first open world Pokemon game, all in a year. A near impossible task without cutting some insane corners or maybe just maybe, putting those millions of gaming sales to good use. Only time will tell if they manage to pull it off. All in all, I'm cautiously optimistic for a third major Pokemon installment in a single year's time. If they can pull off a similar level of quality as what was seen in Legends, then we should be in for a good time. Open world is a natural progression for the franchise, and I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing if Game Freak can continue the trend of stepping outside the comfort of convention to push the franchise in new and exciting ways. What were your overall impressions of the Gen 9 trailer? Feel free to share your thoughts down below as I read every comment and am looking forward to hearing from you all. The Legends Arceus review is still currently in the shop. It should hopefully be released before Gen 9 drops. In the meantime, I'll most likely be putting out a fans fix vid that I'm sure all of you will love. I may also start a new video series I've been interested in producing, but we shall see. Take care you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.